Hey, what's going on, guys? Brandon here. You're with Watch and Unwind. So I know it's been a little bit since I've actually made a video, and a couple of you guys have reached out to me, make sure everything's going all right. And I really appreciate it, guys, because I don't have that big of a following yet, but I feel I got a strong one. And I really appreciate you guys, checking in, making sure that everything's okay. Good news, everything's all right. So this is kind of a two-part video. The first part, I'm just talking about kind of what I've been up to, why I haven't been posting as many videos lately, because I was staying really consistent. That's one of my goals, is stay consistent on this channel. And I'm also going to be covering the new news with the Rolex drop, just kind of what my first impressions are of all the new Rolex news. I'm not going to get too in-depth, but I do want to give you guys kind of my first impressions on what's going on, and I want to hear from you guys and hear kind of what your first impressions are. So if you just care about that new Rolex news, which I'm sure some of you guys do, you can fast forward to that video down below. That's when I'm going to start talking about the new Rolex stuff. But what's been going on with me, so I actually just finished graduate school for physical therapy. So I'm a doctor of physical therapy. My lease ended in Arizona. That's where I was stationed as my home base. So I left Arizona and I kind of went on a 2-month-long nomadic hiking trip, living out of my car because I didn't know where I was going to end up with a job. And then I wanted to, get a little bit of vacation in. So I spent some time in Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, New York. And then I kind of jetted from New York back to where my home base is originally, where I'm from, Massachusetts. When I was there, did some hiking in New Hampshire, Maine, and then I actually ended up landing a job in Alaska, of all places. So that's my new home base. I'm in Alaska. And the good news about that little hiking escapade is that whole time I was wearing my Seiko Alpinist. And as you guys know, that's an adventuring watch. It's meant for mountaineering, for the outdoors. And I really put that watch to the test. I hiked with that watch literally all over the country, mountains from, Rocky Mountain National Park to kind of the beaches of Maine, to now I've done glaciers in Alaska. So that watch has really been put all over the place. I shot some cool video with it in Colorado that I got to edit together for that review. I still want to get that to you guys. And I also still have a bunch of really cool videos I shot with the dealer, E.D. Marshall, that I was working with in Arizona. I have Zenith, Gerard Perigo, a bunch of really cool pieces that I just need to edit that video together and put up for you guys. So I'm going to do that. So a lot of good stuff still to come. And I'll be making, new videos as well. But then with the Rolex news, let's get into it. There was a couple announcements out of Rolex. Number one, for a lot of people, they discontinued the Hulk. A lot of people knew this was going to happen. And if you guys are unfamiliar, which some people might be, that was the green bezeled, green dialed Rolex Submariner, which is the most sought after Rolex model, is usually the Submariner. So you can't get those anymore straight from the dealership. Not that you could really get them straight from the dealership anyway. If you walk into a Rolex AD, you're probably going to have a hard time finding one of these before they would discontinue, just because they're so hard to get. So many people want them, and they're going to give them to their preferred clients, which, to be a preferred client, you got to spend massive amounts of money. But so they discontinued that. As you would think, the prices have been skyrocketing on the online marketplaces. From, I think they're up there now in like almost $30,000 prices for some of these watches that started at, and I'm not sure, but I think it's around $8,500. That's a crazy, crazy price increase. I think that's absolutely mind-blowing that anyone's going to spend that much money on a stainless steel sports watch with an $8,000 list price. But hey, if you got the money and you want to spend it, do it. But it's always kind of baffled me, because if you like Rolex that much and you can spend that much money on a watch, you think you would have been a preferred client, that you would have been able to get your hands on this watch at the dealer anyway. So some of the other news coming out of Rolex, they've discontinued now all the Submariner models in the smaller size of 40 millimeters, and they went up to 41 millimeters. And I know a lot of people's heads exploded over this. A lot of the watch community, I feel like when I'm reading online, when I'm watching other videos, they're really into the smaller sized watches, 39 millimeter, 38, even below sometimes. Some people I hear like 36, but they thought that 40 millimeters was the perfect size for the Submariner, and that extra millimeter now is just kind of really, it's too big, it's too contemporary, but I think it's perfect. I'm a bigger guy. I lift weights every day. I walk around at like 220 pounds. For me, I've always thought the perfect size for a sports model watch, like a stainless steel diver or anything like that, is 42 millimeters. That's what I think looks the best on my wrist. I actually quite like the Seiko Alpinist at its smaller size. I believe it's 39 millimeters. And I think it does look really good. The Alpinist might be 38. I gotta check on that, so don't quote me. But I actually was surprised how I do like the smaller size. But as far as the sub, I don't think all the videos that I'm seeing, I haven't had my hands on the two, the older model and the newer model, to compare it. But from what I'm seeing, some people have actually measured it, and it's really only a 0.5% millimeter increase, and not that full 1 millimeter. Rolex seemed to round up to kind of just say 41 millimeters instead of saying 40.5 millimeters. And so it's not that big of a difference. Everyone's saying it's wearing similar to the older Rolex models, especially because one thing that Rolex did was slim down on the lugs. So even though the case diameter is bigger, with the smaller, slimmer lugs, you're getting a same look and feel on your wrist that it's almost indistinguishable from the older model. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. But guys, can you let me know down below what your favorite size is for a wristwatch? Because I think a lot of the times anything below 40 millimeters just feels a little bit too small. Even though I am liking the Seiko Alpinist, I think it's a little too small for me as well. In that, I'm a bigger guy, so I wear bigger watches. I think 43, 42, 43, even 44. I can see, above 44 that it is getting a little bit too big, and that's not for anyone. But this isn't like the Middle Ages where everyone was small. I think there's a lot of normal sized people around, and that, 40 and above looks fine on their wrist. So let's get into some of the other Rolex news. They've discontinued now the 39 millimeter Oyster Perpetuals for a larger 41 millimeter Oyster Perpetual. That's good news for me, because Oyster Perpetual is a lot easier to find than the Rolex Submariners. And I think they're actually a great looking watch. I really like the simplicity of them. I like them better than the Datejust. I think no date watches look really good, in my opinion, a lot of the time. I don't have any time only watches right now, so I'd really like to add one in my collection. And I've tried on the previous Oyster Perpetual, and I thought it was just a little bit too small for my wrist. I could tell that it was really well made. It felt good. It felt good on the wrist, but it was just a little bit too small. I wanted something bigger. So for me personally, I think 41 millimeters is going to be a good size on that, like I covered. But I get why some people don't like this watch at the 41 millimeters, and that's because it is kind of a dressier looking piece, even though it is still technically in the sports lines of Rolex. You could definitely dress up an Oyster Perpetual. So people liked it a little bit smaller, but I think 41 millimeters is overall good size. They also discontinued the dial variants that they had on that watch, and they've updated them now to like these pastel colors. I think some of them look great. I'm not crazy about the yellow. I'm not crazy about the blue. The green looks all right. My favorite one is the red. I think that's just like a really sharp looking watch. It looks clean. It looks yeah, it's just like a clean looking watch. I think the red is really vibrant and it's not too flashy at the same time. You get a little bit of flash, that pop of red, but it's a really defined looking watch, and it's just a good looking piece. I'd hope to get my hands on one of those to review pretty soon. I'd like to get my hands on any of the Rolex models, but that one in particular I'd like to check out. And I think that's not it for the news. I almost missed the biggest piece, the new Submariner releases. So I talked about the updated sizes on the Submariners, but they also released two new Submariner models. So with the discontinuation of the Hulk, Rolex wanted to add another green watch to the lineup. So they added in what some people are calling the cermit, or the ceramic Kermit. And I'll throw a picture of that above right here. So it's the black dialed, green bezeled Submariner. Looks a lot like the Kermit, besides instead of the steel bezel, it's now the ceramic Hulk bezel on there with a different tint of green as well. I think it's a really sharp looking watch. A lot of people predicted that this watch was going to be coming out. I think I even saw a couple photoshopped versions of this watch online, or watches where people did take off a Hulk bezel and put it onto a black Submariner. So they swapped out the bezels to kind of make their own modified version of this watch. So it's no surprise, but I think it's a great looking watch. They're going to be hard to get right now. These watches as well are increasing in price already. Some dealers, it seems like, are selling these watches right now. Some aren't selling them yet, but they should be available very shortly in the next couple of weeks to come if you are a preferred customer, or if you get lucky. I almost want to go out and look because I haven't checked yet, but there are a couple Rolex dealers in Anchorage where I'm located, and I'm thinking because Alaska is so remote that I might be able to get my hands on this watch, and I wouldn't want to sell it. I just want to hold on to it for my own personal collection, but I don't know if I have that initial money to put up right now. It was a big move for me. I was about to bite the bullet on a Breitling and pick up the Super Ocean 2, because that's a watch that I really love. And I ended up putting actually a lot of money down on a brand new Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk. So I had to, make some adult decisions and kind of relocate my money. But I'm just curious if I could, because if I can't get that watch here, no one's going to get that watch anywhere, because, Alaska's pretty remote compared to Phoenix, Arizona, where I used to live, or Boston, Massachusetts, where I'm originally from. So let me know if you guys find that watch anywhere, if you get lucky. And if you do pick it up, what you had to do. Did you just get lucky, or have you spent money in that dealership before? Have you just poked around and kind of made your face available at the dealership? How do you get your hands on that watch? But the other new release from Rolex is the blue dialed black face Submariner, which is, I think, the best looking Submariner right now, in my opinion. But there's a big problem with this watch. Well, it's not a problem for everyone, but for most kind of normal people, this watch only comes in white gold. So I think this watch would have looked really, really good in stainless steel. I think it would have been like the hottest selling Submariner, which is saying a lot because all the Submariners are really hot. Everyone wants all of them. But I think the black dial with the blue bezel, it's just a really sharp look. It would have performed awesome in stainless steel, but they decided to just put it in white gold, which I sort of understand because it's replacing the white gold Smurf, which was the blue dial, blue bezel that was not available in stainless steel, that was only available in white gold. So I could see, you know, replacing the Hulk with another green watch for the stainless steel, then replacing the Smurf with another blue watch, which is, you know, this that people don't really know what to call it yet. I've heard the blueberry, I've heard the Cookie Monster. I'll just call it the blue bezel Submariner to keep things easy, but I do like nicknames. So let me know down below what you guys would call this watch. But yeah, bummer that's not in stainless steel. I think it would have done really well. And I think that I like Rolex. I like what they do as far as the designs of the watch, the timeless. It's the Submariner, guys. I mean, it's such an iconic watch. Everybody wants one. I only hear good things about them. I don't have one in my collection because they're hard to get. They cost a lot of money. Even at MSRP, they cost a lot of money compared to some other great watches you could get, like an Omega or a Breitling. But this just shows they really don't care about their casual customers. They're not marketing these watches to their casual customers. You can't get these watches. If they put this watch in stainless steel, they would have sold so many of these watches. And they don't really care about selling their watches on a massive scale. They do produce a lot of these, but with the way that they're selling them, they just don't really care about pushing out so many numbers. They'd rather have a select few kind of higher tier, more wealthy clients that spend a lot of money than their casual clients, which I kind of understand. I think they're trying to get up there and like Patek Philippe and their levels of prestige that only the really, really wealthy people can afford these watches, which is weird because they don't have this super high MSRP. If they wanted to sell, you know, $30,000-$40,000 watches, they could do it. But they're selling these lower priced watches. They're just really hard to get. So you're kind of building that prestige, because if you go in there and you bought, you know, a bunch of other Rolex watches, usually watches that no one really wants, like the Cellini, then maybe they'll sell you a Submariner. So you know, spend 30,000-40,000, then you get to buy a Submariner. You get the honors of spending your hard-earned money on a Submariner. They'll let you do it, but they could just increase the prices of the watches as well. But what I think they want to do is they want to keep the watches stainless steel. They don't want to make them out of, you know, precious metals, so that they don't have to, you know, increase the quality of these watches. They're well made, in-house movement. You can't see the movement. It's behind that steel case back. But so they don't have to dress it up as much as some of these other watches that are, you know, they're charging $30,000-$40,000 for a watch. They're keeping their costs as low as possible while trying to build their prestige by kind of playing the average Joe that can afford these watches by just not selling to them. So, and I'm curious about your thoughts as that as well, guys. Let me know what you think. Again, this isn't like a super in-depth analysis. I don't have these watches on hand. I'll work on trying to get them. It's a new channel. I'm still growing. I've been fortunate enough to get my hands on some really cool watches like the Ulysse Nardin Freak, Frank Mueller. Again, I got Gerard Perigo, Zenith, that I have to upload some of these videos of, Omega, a bunch of others. I've been lucky to get my hands on some really cool watches, but as the channel grows, I'm going to be able to get my hands on more and more. So let me know down below what you guys think of all this news as well. If you enjoyed the video, guys, hey, even if you didn't enjoy the video, please subscribe. It helps out a lot. The more subscribers I get, the more watches I can get my hands on, the more time I'll have to put into these videos, and it will just help us all. So thanks a lot, guys. Catch you later.